this episode of Chem's Code Gems, I'll be showing you how to display a pipe's API response as a list within your Tadabase application. So let's hop right in. I'm starting here with a blank app, and what we need to do first is actually set up the pipe. I'm going to use this website called JSON placeholder and use this endpoint so that we can get an array of a response with an array. So I'm going to install a custom pipe, and let's create a new API call. Okay. Let's take a look at this response that it brings in. And we see we have an array of a bunch of items, and now what we want to do is trigger this on a page in the page builder. So what I'm going to do is copy this code and go to let's create a page called list, and what we want to do is display this information in a nice list. So first let's paste this into the JavaScript, and I'm aware that when working with the JavaScript pipes, you have to actually pass in a parameter for it to work. So let's just add a blank parameter just so that we can trigger this. At the time of recording, that's necessary. So let's actually go and copy. What I'll do here is copy the code, and if you don't see that, reach out to support, and we could enable that for your account. And let's just log the response and take a look at what we're dealing with here. So let's go to the page builder. I'm going to open the developer tools and take a look at the console. As you can see, there's an array of 200 items that are being brought in from this API through this pipe. And now what we can do is actually, I would pull up VS Code, paste the code here, so that we can work with a little bit better of a code editor here. So for each response, we want to loop through and do something with each response, right? So first what I'll do is define a bunch of variables. Let's say user ID, title, and completed. So if we take a look here, if we console log all of these, let's log user ID, title, and completed. You'll see that if I paste this back into the builder and refresh the front end, we'll see that we're now dealing with each individual record. So now we could do something with this. Now we need to actually build the HTML for this, so let's do that. To make this a little bit more organized, I'm going to use the custom component. However, the custom component is reliant on the fact of there being a data table. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a blank data table called for custom component JavaScript. Well, let's call it whatever you want. We don't need any fields in here. We just need this. We just need this so that we can use the custom component. And then I'm going to create this custom component. And let's first of all let's bring in. We don't need the each records because we're not using this custom component for records that are in Tadabase. We're using this component for records that are outside of Tadabase. So I'm going to actually pull in the JavaScript here just to keep everything in one place. And what we'll do is build out our template here. So first I want a div that has the class of row, and then I want to hold every list item inside of a column that's 12, a full width column. And then what we'll do is create the template underneath it to hold all of the response items. So we have 4 items here, right? Completed ID, title, and user ID. And what I'll do here is create a template that has the ID list item template, and you'll see how we use this in the JavaScript soon. And then I click create a row that has the classes to make it look like a list, just like the default Tadabase list component has. And I add the list body, the row. Inside of this row, I add 4 columns for the user ID, the response ID, the title, and completed. And I give them each the span inside of each one of these a class a different class so that in the JavaScript we can we could clone this template, insert it inside of list items, and populate the fields based from the response of the API. So let's do that. Instead of just logging these four variables, what we'll do next is define another variable for the template and for the clone. So we define template as the query selector list item template from before. That's right here, the ID list item template, and then we clone it. Next, what we want to do is actually take the clone and find the user ID and set the HTML to the user ID from the response. And the same goes for the response ID, the title, and completed. And then what we want to do is append to list items the clone. So we're going through each response item, defining each thing, setting everything, and appending it to the clone. Appending the clone to the list item. So right now, if we save this, reload the front end, you'll see the response items from the API are all now listed in this list. What we need to do is get rid of this. No record found because we're in a custom component here. So I'll just hide that in the CSS. And same goes for this action bar here. What is it called? I think this is default. Yeah, the action bar, we don't need to show that. We'll go into the CSS and hide no records found. And there you go. Now we have an API being called, and as soon as the page loads, it pulls in the API information. If you want, you can build a search bar and trigger, and, write a trigger so that it only triggers on input submit, on form submit. And you can get as creative as you want. You could even import resources like external libraries or JavaScript libraries or CSS libraries for design and functionality. So there you have it. If you found this useful, please let me know. If you end up building something really cool and want to show it off, please let me know too. I'm always excited to see things that people have built. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are.